Hi, it's Natasha, and I'm so excited. I have a wonderful person with me here today, Jennilyn, who's a gut expert, and she and I are aligned on many issues concerning the gut and probiotic supplementation, and really what we can do for the what I call the holiday survival guide. Because if we trash our system will trash us, and that's not a lot of fun during the holidays. So, Jenny Lynn, this is sort of a free, open conversation, and I think one of the things that we just discussed before we started the recording is the abuse of antacids and trashing our bodies and not really preparing for the feast and enjoyment and following some simple rules so that our body doesn't backfire on us.
Yes, yes. I know me and Natasha had a conversation of like about a month ago, and we were like, we got to do another one of these because we're just seeing some really detrimental stuff in our country, especially with gut health, and I feel like it's never been such a big issue as it is now. And like she said, most people their solution is just let's take antacids, let's take PPIs like, Nexium, Prilosec, all these proton pump inhibitors that decrease stomach acid up to 95%, which is very concerning if you actually understand what stomach acid actually does for the body and for the immune system and for the organism. So we're just trying to bring some more education so people aren't just so reliant on these kind of like band-aid symptom management type things that's really kind of how we're treating gut health currently.
Yeah, you're right. Well, first of all, let's talk about that. I tell people that the only reason I say precision probiotics because we don't understand probiotics, and I've been in this field for 56 years. And believe me when I tell you, I've heard and seen everything. And we are aligned because what people do is think that the body talking to us or having a problem is a nuisance. So let's get the body messaging to shut up because it's interfering with us. And that's the first and very wrong option for you to do. First of all, let's talk about digestion. You rightly said that we need stomach acid. What is stomach acid for? Stomach acid is there because it needs to break down protein and it needs to kill the microbes that come in through water, food, and air. If it doesn't kill those microbes with the stomach acid, those bacteria end up going into our small intestine and do a job trying to take advantage of our immune system, take advantage of our body, and do a lot of harm. And so, taking an antacid is what I call taking a huge risk that you may have an unlucky day because some really bad bacterium will get in with your food that somebody didn't wash their hands when they used the toilet, and you're going to have a really bad day because if you get one of these really nasty bugs, you could become paralyzed temporarily or permanently. So this is, a good warning that you need to know what more about your digestion, why it's necessary for the stomach acid, and if you plan to have your stomach acid act properly, you're not going to have acid reflux. You're not going to have acid indigestion because those are all symptoms of us abusing our body and not knowing what we're throwing into our body. And that's why we have this state of chronic disease in our country where 80% of our healthcare dollar is spent on chronic disease. So if we don't want the holidays to end up with us having a autoimmune disease or some other problem that we may have to take out an organ from our body, presumably the gallbladder, because they're now talking about people having gallbladder problems for stuffing their face with too many fats that are not healthy for us. And believe me, organs should not be taken out unless they pose a serious life event or life risk, because those organs are necessary. And the gallbladder is extremely necessary to perform certain functions in your body that are necessary for your health. So just taking your gallbladder out because you've done something to abuse it is not the first choice. It should be the last choice you make in taking any organ out of your body. So Jenny Lynn, if you want to add something to that.
Yes. I'm so on the same page with you, Natasha, because I have to say, so I recently spoke at a conference, and I asked the audience just to get an idea how many people have had their gallbladder removed. And it was honestly probably a third of the audience raised their hand.
Hmm.
So one, I want to speak on this a little bit because I do think it's a little bit more prominent than we realize. When you get your gallbladder removed, guys, you have to understand that yes, your liver does make bile, but it makes bile acids. It stores in the gallbladder and then it's converted to bile salts. So if you don't have a gallbladder, you usually will have a very hard time digesting fats. And they don't typically tell people this when they get the gallbladder removed of, hey, you should be on ox bile salts now to help you digest your fats. I actually asked the audience, how many of those people that had their gallbladder removed that raised your hand, how many of you guys were told that you should take ox bile salts? Not one hand went up. Not even one understood the importance of taking ox bile salts. And I've honestly, guys, like I've had clients that had permanent diarrhea after they had their gallbladder removed. I put them on ox bile salts and their diarrhea magically went away within a few days. I mean, it's that important. So I think the fact that there's a few problems with this. First of all, when we're removing someone's gallbladder, the lack of education on how they need to change their diet and lifestyle or supplementation afterwards is really not talked about. And then the second problem, like Natasha said, why are we removing the gallbladder in the first place? Why aren't we looking at the issue of, is this person have sluggish bile? Are they having liver compromise where they're actually not producing enough bile and it's affecting their ability to digest fats? We're not really problem solving very well. And like she said, we just consider when there's a symptom in our body, how do we shut it up the quickest? You know, how do we remove it? How do we give them a drug? We don't want to listen to these symptoms of information anymore. We're just like, want to pretty much silence them. And you can see that's a big problem when the body's trying to communicate with you. Imagine that your check engine light goes on in your car and you just keep turning it off. I mean, can you see the problem with that? It's like your check engine light came on because it wants you to check your engine. You know, it doesn't want you to just turn off the light.
Or even better yet, you're ignoring a flat tire.
Exactly. Like I really see that the way that we're treating symptoms now, it discourages me a lot because we are teaching people not to pay attention to their bodies. And if there's any information that's coming up, to just shut it down. Right. And that's kind of what we're doing in Western medicine. We're removing organs. We are giving prescription drugs that just minimize a symptom but cause a side effect. And we're not educating people on, just like you said, the true root cause. Like, let's go into stomach acid for a minute, right? Mm-hmm. How many people are on chronic use of PPIs? So like I said, proton pump inhibitors. These are at like Costco now, like omeprazole, Nexium, Prilosec. If you look at the bottle, it says not meant for long-term use. These were never designed to be on long-term. And I have people that have been on them for 20 years, that their doctor fully is aware that they've been on them for 20 years and never has talked to them about the side effects of that. And you talked about SIBO. It's like SIBO it's estimated that 30% of the country, I think, has a small intestinal bacteria overgrowth now, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. These diseases and the chronic diseases are coming up because of our ignorance. Let's break it down for one thing. First of all, if you have your gallbladder removed and you're not efficiently emulsifying oil, let's just fast forward. When you don't have the right oils utilized by your body, you're heading for dementia and other mind-altering diseases as you age. So the fact that you're not able to consume healthy oils is leading to these problems. And there is a price to pay for your ignorance or ignoring your body's signals. Now, when we talk about the proton pump inhibitors, which most people don't understand, and this is related to your gallbladder, to everything, because it's part of your digestive process. So it's not related. It is related because everything that goes wrong has an impact on the rest of the body and the rest of the organs. So what the actual thing the proton pump inhibitors do is send a signal to the brain. And the brain then tells the stomach to stop producing stomach acid. So whenever you go off these proton pump inhibitors, you get a huge production of acid, and that makes you go right back to them. And it becomes like a terrible, feedback where you can't get off the proton pump inhibitors because now you're producing so much acid that it's forcing you to go back to them. And so you have to break the cycle. And the way to break this cycle, as I've always said, is to take the precision probiotics, because the bacteria that, are aligned with your body, that have evolved with Homo sapiens, have a vested interest in keeping you healthy. It's not the one that has all these organisms listed on the box, because like I said, I've done this for 56 years. And the thing is, that will help you to motivate your digestive system to return to normal and to start digesting your food. Because again, as Jennilyn so well stated, this small intestinal and bacterial overgrowth is becoming a problem, because when you reduce stomach acid, you allow the bacteria to go into your small intestine. When they're allowed to go into your small intestine in large numbers, there's not enough beneficial bacteria there to keep them in check, and you get this infection. And it is extremely difficult to get rid of. And plus, this small intestinal bacterial overgrowth can lead to autoimmune disease, which is a topic for a whole lecture of about an hour and more, because people don't understand the connection to stopping normal digestive processes, allowing bacteria to overgrow, and that leads to autoimmune disease. And this is one thing in this country that people are not aware of, and they trash their body. They're listening to people who really don't understand what they're talking about. They give simple solutions to very complex problems. And that's why we're seeing more chronic disease, because we're not in the holistic industry taking care of the body holistically and looking at the whole digestive process to make sure that it's working in sync with our body and mind, so that we can function and enjoy our life.
Yes. And I love you said that we're oversimplifying these complex issues, right? We understand that the digestive system is a complex system. It's pH sensitive and throughout the entire process. Each sphincter is pH sensitive. So when I hear this rising epidemic of acid reflux, right? And immediately they say, oh, you have acid reflux, you must have too much stomach acid, so we're going to lower it. That's an oversimplification, right? It's like, yeah, if it were that easy, couldn't these people get off of it eventually and feel better? But they don't, right?
No.
And again, it's like, even acid reflux, are we diving into, okay, most likely they have too low of stomach acid, right? So that LES sphincter at the bottom of your esophagus is not closing, because it's not getting the proper signals of the pH being between 1.5 to 2, which the stomach wants to be at. There's a reason, guys, that your stomach acid is super acidic. It's very hard to break down protein to amino acids. And your entire body is made out of amino acids. Your hair, your eyelashes, all your tissues, they literally need amino acids to build. And if you're not able to break down protein, that's a massive issue there. Like, not only are you not going to build the tissue you need to build, but you can also have this protein buildup. And then you can see markers of inflammation start to go up, C-reactive protein going higher, cholesterol and lipids getting, misplaced. It's like, it really contributes to this whole metabolic disease that we're seeing in the country right now, that we are, I mean, not even just obesity, but just our blood markers, our cardiovascular systems, like you mentioned, neurodegenerative diseases have gone up significantly. Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's. We're seeing this even in younger people now. Like there's been estimated cases of Parkinson's in people that are 30. We didn't used to see this until people that were in their 60s.
Right. And that's because you're right. It's the malformation or the creation of cheap proteins, because your digestion isn't working right. And when you create cheap proteins, you will ferment a disease. Sorry for the word ferment, but it's literally what happens. The people don't understand this. Your whole body is replaced every year. So if you don't have the right bacterial content in your GI tract or in your microbiome, if you're just listening to everybody who's trying to sell you something, that's why you get into trouble. Because if you're not digesting properly, you cannot replace your body. It leads to premature aging, and it leads to disease. And that's not my opinion. That's very hard science. So if your body is not able to break down proteins and replace 10,000 cells that we lose every minute of the day, you're going to be in trouble sooner or later, depending on the weakness in your body. And your genes, by the way, don't get turned on and off by just simply being there, because genes are a program or a plan. You have to do something to turn them on. So if you're having indigestion and your perception of reality gets changed. Your perception of reality is one of the things that turns on and off those genes. And the amount of toxins in your body, which are either produced by bacteria that are now overgrowing because of your lack of stomach acid, they're causing the genes to be turned on and off, and the toxins you ingest through air, water, and food. So not only are you hurting your digestion, your body's ability to rebuild itself, you're also triggering genes that will definitely cause disease. And this is where people need to understand the connection, because people talk about genes separately. They talk about stomach acid separately. They talk about the gallbladder separately. They talk about all these things separately when they're actually very much an integral part of keeping you alive, thinking right, having the right energy, and being able to enjoy your life. And going to a feast on a holiday where you completely neglect your body, go out of control, that's going to be a payday to come. Whether it's right after that holiday or the next holiday, there is a payday. And I think it's much more radical now than it ever was in the past, because as I said, I've been in this industry 56 years. And even when people were drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, and consuming red meat, we did not have the state of chronic disease we have today.
Right. Exactly. And like we're saying, this oversimplification of these complex issues, right? So like let's take SIBO, for instance. We've mentioned that when you have low stomach acid, you can build up a small intestinal bacteria overgrowth in your small intestine.
Mhm.
Well, most people, when they have SIBO, what are the two big symptoms they present with? Typically bloating and constipation or diarrhea, right? It's like a
Mhm.
very, very, and what do you do when most doctors you go and you're like bloated? They tell you it's normal. Oh, it's normal. Everyone bloats. Or, oh, you ate too much at Thanksgiving. Guys, I just want you to understand bloating is not a normal symptom. It's not something you should be dealing with on
No.
a daily basis. It's not normal. It is your body telling you information that's like, there's something going on here. There's too much fermentation going on that's releasing a
Mhm.
lot of off gases, and that's causing your bloating. It's not just, oh, I'm bloated again. I guess, I just hear people talk about it. And I even see a hashtag on social media that says bloating is normal. And they're trying to normalize like women feeling better about being bloated. And I see a big issue with that, because I'm all about body positivity, but that's not, you shouldn't say that bloating is normal. You're normalizing that you have a very probably dysbiotic environment going on in your
Mhm.
gut.
Yeah, the cause of bloating is undigested food that your body is not breaking down into the right molecular size, and it's being attacked by bacteria or yeast that's in your body, and that's fermenting that food for itself, and is the process of that fermentation is causing more gas production, and that gas is causing your stomach to swell because it has nowhere to go. It's not capable of being released on either end, either through your mouth or through the other end. And people make jokes. I said, listen, this is not a joke. It's your body talking to you. And if you make a joke out of it, it's not a joke, because if you don't pay attention to it, it's going to lead to disease. And
Right.
that's why they're now starting to publish articles and telling you that if you have indigestion continually, it will lead to a premature death. If you or abuse proton pump inhibitors or any antacids, it will lead to premature death. If you don't understand what you're intaking to help your digestion, it will lead to premature death. So I'm trying to get everybody's attention, because whoever they're listening to so far, or whatever steps they've taken, has not produced results in our country, because still a greater majorities of people, especially young ones, are chronically ill. And before the end of this, I want to give them some guidelines for what I call my holiday survival tips, and things that they shouldn't be doing. For instance, they should not be going to these juice places and drinking these juices. Why? Because the machines are not washed out. They're taking new foods in that their body may not be familiar with. Now, look, I'm not telling you not to drink almond milk. It's really not a milk, it's a processed food. You have to understand this. You can't just drink it because you think you want to become a vegan, and all of a sudden your body's going to adopt all of its enzymes and all of its microbiome because you've decided to change your diet. It doesn't happen that quickly. Anytime you make a radical change in your diet, why do they say that diet can cause disease or health? Is because it switches around the composition of the microbes in your gut that make up the microbiome. That's what diet does. And if you don't have historically the right bacteria to adjust to that new diet, no matter what anybody's told you, you're not able to sustain eating those foods because it's not fueling your body anymore. It's feeding your body, and your body is being fed the wrong food. And you have to determine what is right and what is wrong. And I'm going to say some controversial things. First of all, milk has been given a bad rap in this country. Milk is the staple in many healthy cultures around the world that I have studied. It's actually the only food that's real food, if you think about it. So, cow's milk has gotten a bad rap in this country because not because of the milk, but because of what we've done to the cows. So if you're of European descent and you're not able to drink milk, think about it. You have a problem. All right.
Yes.
And you're now switching your diet. Now there's a comeback. Everybody's pushing beef. I don't know if you've seen this. And I smile. All these people saying, oh, you have to have beef parts, or you have to consume beef because this is what's going to help you build your cellular structure. It's going to make your organs stronger. And again, it's information out of context. You have to look at your genetic background. You have to eat fresh foods, and they all have to be cooked. I have continually told people in the health food industry, raw foods are not healthy. They're not going to force your body to produce more enzyme. It's a fallacy. Your body produces the enzyme it's used to producing. And the reason that the health food industry, because I've been around, like I said, for 56 years, went to raw foods because historically American women used to boil vegetables. Yes, if you boil something, you're going to take everything in. But in Europe, we saute our vegetables. It means we help break down the substance so that our body has an easier time digesting it and processing it into fuel. That's what digestion is about. It's fuel for your body to function and fuel for your body to rebuild itself. So if it doesn't have the proper enzymes, I don't care how many enzymes you take off the shelf, it's not going to be able to process that food. And then what happens? That undigested food starts feeding the wrong bacteria and yeast in your body. That wrong bacteria and yeast, if it's allowed to overgrow, will start producing toxins. What do those toxins do? They start destroying your body at a cellular level. That's what all autoimmune disease is. It's a misdirection of the body, not doing what's in the best interest of your body to stay healthy and function. And I've been thinking about this, and I said, how do I get people to understand that they're being fed the wrong information? They're not understanding what they're doing to their body. And the rate of chronic disease is exploding in our country. They're listening to all these people who it's like the 26 blind men feeling the elephant and telling everybody what the elephant looks like. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
And
No,
so
you're right.
it's whoever you've listened to and they've told you what that elephant looks like is what you think the elephant should look like. In the meantime, nobody's getting better.
Right, right. And I'm so happy that you mentioned autoimmune, because I can tell you just from having a gut health group and being on social media, I mean, people come to me daily with Hashimoto's and psoriasis and eczema. Like, we're seeing an explosion of autoimmune. And like you said, to be honest, the immune system, if you look at it in research, is probably the system that we know the least about out of any system. But the more research that we're doing in microbiome, and I think that's why me and you love bacteria so much, is they are very intertwined with the immune system. It's almost like you can't separate them. They're so intertwined, right? And I think this is a big, big reason that people need to understand the consequences of like an antibiotic course, right? And that's why I love your probiotics, is I definitely recommend that people need to replenish. I mean, my suggestions are please try to avoid antibiotics if you can. Don't take them as a precaution. Don't take them as there's a lot of reasons people take antibiotics, but even the CDC itself admits, and this is like, you guys can look this up, that 50% of antibiotic prescriptions are unnecessary. Yep. So we're over prescribing antibiotics at a pretty high rate, and we're seeing the consequences of them. Because even if they tell you, oh, this is amoxicillin, it's fine, there's no consequences, Imagine, guys, if you went into a factory of Amazon or something, right? Imagine if I just came in and said, hey, everyone that has a last name A through E, you guys are fired today. You take your
Mm-hmm.
stuff and go. You wouldn't know who you're firing. You wouldn't know if you're firing the guy that packages the boxes or the guy that puts the shipment in. It's the same
Mm-hmm.
thing with antibiotics. We don't know who we're killing. You could be killing all the good guys
Yep.
that ferment your fibers. You could kill the good guys that create GABA that calms your nervous system. You could kill the good guys that make your B vitamins for you. We don't know who we're killing. And then we
Mm-hmm.
keep playing this game of how many courses of antibiotics can someone get before their immune system totally malfunctions.
Yeah. If I want you to have this picture. Your small intestine, it's about 20 feet long. If you took it out and stretched it, it would cover a tennis court. Okay. Now you've got these microscopic immune cells parked on that intestinal wall along with the bacteria. The bacteria are messaging the immune cells and each other for dominance. And the immune cells are reacting to the messages that they get from the bacteria. If you think of a Star Wars magnified 1,000%, that's what's going on in your intestinal tract, because there's photon light emission being used for the communication and chemical means. So there is a fight for you. And what is our job? To mentally and physically keep an optimal balance. If we're not able to keep that optimal balance by taking quick fixes, and this is where I finally figured out after all these years of doing this, is we give information out of context. We're fixing symptoms, but we're not understanding how the body functions. And by not putting in the right bacteria, and I could just tell you, since I've been doing this for more than half a century, is that putting in the wrong bacteria and letting it enter the body is not going to help you, because unfortunately, the FDA or any regulatory agency in this country only regulates the claims that you make. They're not testing these products to see if they're actually meeting their label claim. They're not really concerned about the safety of all of these microorganisms, because it's all the information is peripheral. Remember, just to give you a simple example, glyphosate was allowed by the FDA to be used as a pesticide because whatever tests, the pharmaceutical company presented to FDA showed them that this glyphosate, which is this horrible pesticide that now has caused tremendous problems because it was originally registered as a potent antibiotic. So what I'm talking about, they can present safety data to the FDA that's out of context. It's done all the time. So just because nobody's protesting about you taking a live single-celled brain into your body, the people selling these products, what did they know about this bacteria? How much do they know about its side effects? Is it completely safe under all conditions? Or is it a probiotic bacteria that may be inhibiting other bacteria that is necessary for you to function optimally? This is the question that people are not asking. They just think that by throwing a bunch of bacteria into your gut is going to solve their problem. And that's why we're not getting better, because people don't understand the function of these bacteria at such a deep level that we understand how it reacts with our immune cells, how it reacts with our digestion. Why do we think it has a objective to keep us healthy? If they're not evolved with us and they're not one of those what I call core probiotic bacteria, they're only going to operate in their best interest. They don't care about the health of your body. It's a convenience for them. So that's why I've done this research to make sure that the bacteria I recommend are actually the ones that evolve with us, have a vested interest in keeping us healthy. Why? Because we're the best environment for them to thrive. Remember, bacteria are smart. Yeast is smart. They only look for environments that allow them to thrive. If we're not the best environment for them to thrive, they're going to come and go and possibly not do all the wonderful things that we think they're going to do. There's many mistakes being made when people offer probiotic products to treat symptoms. We should not be treating symptoms in the health food industry. I have been taught by the greats who started this industry that we have to fix the digestive tract. And after we fix the digestive tract, look for things that we need to add. But if the digestive tract is functioning optimally, we should not be having these problems that we're seeing today. And what I think it is that people uh, either misguidedly or they don't understand the whole body are giving this information out, and people are like that 26 blind men filling the edit, whoever they listen to last. Oh, yeah, I'm going to try this diet. Oh, yeah, I'm going to try this product. Oh, yeah, I'm going to do this exercise because somebody told me to do it. But nobody's there putting all of this together that really understands the body and telling you, look, if you want to live well, if you want to enjoy good mental health, good physical health, you have to understand the whole body. And you cannot be triggered by fast, quick fixes that somebody's offering you, or because they look beautiful and sexy. Oh, they must be telling me the truth because look at the way they look.
Right. And you just hit a big point that I like: marketing, right? I mean, I know we're in the supplement industry, but I can't stand, I would say like 80% of the supplements out there, because you can just tell they spend all their money on marketing and not research, right? Like,
Um,
that's one thing I really appreciate about you is, like you said, like, if you're gonna, guys, if you're gonna buy supplements, buy ones that are researched, buy ones that they actually spend time and money to develop, to make sure it works. And they're not just spending time and money to develop the bottle and the marketing and the Facebook ads and the all the, you can sell a really crappy product to people by promising, like you said, that it will do really good. And then you have Julia Roberts, promoting it or something like that, where they use these figures. But it's like, don't just think that all supplements are created equal, because some of them
no,
will actually do more harm than good. And I think people need to realize that. It's like, oh, I take this, it's maybe not the best, but it's like, no, that's going to be doing more harm. If you take just a
no,
random probiotic that they didn't research the strains, maybe, like she said, they don't play nice with your good bacteria.
yeah,
They didn't evolve with us. Why would they be invested in our health as a host to keep us alive? They're just going to
yeah.
go in for those best interests and say, how can I dominate this environment? And that's how we get these pathogen overgrowths. A lot of times is we have these dominant species that don't play nice with the other ecosystem.
That's right. Look, having been in this industry, let me tell you something very important. Virtually all of the people who sell supplements do not make them themselves. There are very few formulators. Let me explain just simply that saying doctor formulated is an oxymoron, because nowhere in medical school did they teach you about formulation. And reviewing published research doesn't mean you have in-depth knowledge. That's like somebody reading a cookbook that's never cooked and trying to make a very complicated dish. Okay. That's the analogy I think everybody will understand. They're not going to be the master chef to make this special ingredient or make this special presentation just because they've read a cookbook. You need
Yes.
practice. You need to understand fermentation. And this has been a problem in the industry. The reason that people got out of manufacturing is because if they got into trouble with the FDA, it didn't shut down their business. The contract manufacturer would be making for 100, maybe 200 companies. And so if the company got into trouble, they could just change their label, change their offices, and they'd be back in the business because their manufacturing wasn't shut down. This is something that people need to be aware of. Microbiology is extremely complex. It's like rocket science. And probiotics is more complex because not only do you have to understand the research in the organisms, you have to understand how to ferment them, which ones you want to use, which ones you don't want to use. And the last thing you want to do is treat symptoms with probiotics, because bacteria are single-celled brains. They operate always in their own best interest. And if you don't understand what that best interest is, you're not going to get the results that you're looking for. And, since I sat for 10 years on something called the standards committees with the National Nutritional Foods Association, which, by the way, was destroyed because it tried to implement a true label program. This is something I need to start talking about. That the
Yes.
company said, we can't make money with this true label program. And that's why historically, 80% of the dietary supplements don't have in them what they claim on the label. And people need to be aware.
It's
Sexy
80%,
packaging.
80% are not what's on the label.
That's right.
That is just crazy.
Yeah.
That is so crazy. So, guys, if you're out there uninformed, just buying supplements, I would definitely take a step back for a minute and do some research, like she's saying, because I mean, 80% of those supplements, and that is what we're talking about too, is probably not the ones at Costco are going to do good for you. Probably not the ones at Walmart are going to do good for you.
Yeah. Well, even the ones in the health food store, because we were testing, when I sat on the standards committee, we tested product off of major health food store shelves across the country. And it was called the True Label Program. And that's one of the reasons that the NNFA was disbanded, because everybody complained about the cost. It was minimal cost. It was like several $100s a year, which was absurd for a company that had like 50 or 100 SKUs, not wanting to pay the money to have their products tested off the shelf, not wanting to pay the money, which was very inexpensive for the amount of money they were making, to belong to the True Label Program. So, since our country is in so much trouble health wise, I would say we have to start listening. And I even start talking to the natural health care practitioners. They have the same problem with those vitamins and minerals they sell, because people are interested in a marketing and business plan. They're interested in selling things private label, not because they've designed them or you think that they've made them. No, it's the way they control your buying habits. And I'm now exposing this because our country's too sick. We have too many young people that are compromised, and we just have to stop this. We just have to stop this and start getting out truthful messages by people who really care, who've been around this industry for long enough to know what's going on. And then we have a sick nation of young people. Forget about the old people. Not that I mean to forget them about their problems, but the future of this nation is in trouble. The young people are in trouble with colon cancer, with autoimmune disease, with the inability to think clearly, depression and suicide. We have a real problem, and we need to own up to it. And especially during the holidays, we don't want to be trashing our bodies even more, because we're not a healthy nation.
Right. And you're so right. A few things. It's like a couple things. Like, again, we used to see some of these chronic disease manifest older, when people were hitting their 50s and 60s. Guys, we're seeing it now. Like she's saying, I'm in my 30s and I'm seeing it with people in their 20s having autoimmune, having fertility issues in their 20s. So like we're really up against something pretty big. And like she says, with it being the holiday, let's just talk about that for a second, right? I've seen some interesting habits around the holiday. People just somehow, there's no tolerance, there's no limit for alcohol. All of a sudden, people kind of overindulge in alcohol. And I'm not saying to everyone that you can never consume alcohol ever, but you do have to be very mindful that, especially if you have a yeast overgrowth, it loves alcohol. I mean, that is yeast, right? So it's like if you have a candida overgrowth and you're drinking wine and Chardonnays on the daily, that might not be the best option for you, even if it's the
No,
holidays,
it's like throwing fire into a fire pit. Uh,
Yes,
that's what alcohol
exactly.
does to candida. And like I said, it's not a social judgment or critique. You just have to understand what the consequences are. Number one, alcohol is a substance your body cannot digest or break down, especially for women. Women have even fewer enzymes. It is a huge burden on your liver. And guess what? You really do need your liver. So
Yes.
if you're going to overindulge, I have a recipe on our website. You can go and see. And I'm going to before we finish today, I'm going to give a simple holiday survival guide, because if you overdrink and you overindulge, you are overloading your system. And it's dangerous to overload your system, because I feel that the yeast problem has not gone away. Candidiasis is still very prevalent. And I just saw an article recently published in Epoch Times that sugar causes cancer. Well, guess why sugar causes cancer? Because it feeds candida.
Yes.
And I've been
Yes. And
talking
just
about 40 years, we've been talking about this, and people still don't get it.
right. And you guys, and with her mentioning candida, I just want to throw out a few of the common symptoms because, like we said, it is very common. If
Mhm.
you're if you have these little red bumps like on your arm. So I used to have candida. This is how I got into gut health, is I had issues myself. I had these little red bumps on my arms that would never go away. That's a sign of a candida overgrowth. It could be dandruff. It could be athlete's foot. It could be ringworm. You start showing up with these fungal overgrowths, which that's what candida is a fungus, right?
Mhm.
And we just discount them. I mean, how many times have you heard, oh, dandruff can be normal and athlete's foot is normal? All these things that we normalize, guys, your body is screaming at you. It's like there's a big overgrowth here. And like she says, it's not just dandruff. It's like we're looking at maybe cancer down the road.
Yep.
It's more serious than we are just allotting to. And then people are sitting here like, oh, I have this giant beer belly, but I'm gonna have a 6-pack of beer. You know what I mean? Like it's a
Mhm.
dangerous place to be.
And then all of a sudden they get diagnosed and it doesn't appear overnight. And that's what I'm saying, that ignorance is not bliss, that we're very ignorant of candida. People stop talking about it. We don't really understand how dangerous this organism is, or how much with the abuse of antibiotics. Remember, I'm saying abuse, overuse of antibiotics has eliminated competition of the fungus, and that turns into candida. Fungus is just the more general name for yeast and mold. When a candida is actually a mold that grows in your body, and it can become deadly. It can start living off of your body, and it can force you produce chemicals where you are now addicted to sugar. Food addictions are caused by either fungal overgrowth or bacterial overgrowth, because they produce chemicals that punish you if you don't give them the food that they want.
It's a
And
very intelligent species. You have to give them that. It's like they're
yep,
running the show and they're microscopic and you're this large organism and they're running the show.
that's right. That's right. And like I said, ignorance is not bliss. So you make all these mistakes during the holiday, you're going to have hell to pay for. And and people say, "Oh, I just got diagnosed with this." Well, guess what? You didn't just get diagnosed. It was forming there for years. You just
Yes.
ignored it. You ignored the warning signs because you're ignorant of the warning signs. You don't even know what to look for, and you keep doing the same things. And then what is insanity? If you keep doing the same thing and expect different results.
Right. So on that note, I know we're kind of coming up on time. Will you
Yeah.
provide people with how do we survive the holidays? So we did talk about alcohol. Obviously, you know our stance on alcohol, but what other tips would you give people to get through this pretty much this next month? Because January, then everyone's going to be like, how do I get healthy?
Well, I always tell them, I had the silly people tell me, well, I don't want to take my probiotics and waste them because I know I'm going to abuse my system. And I said, what? This is when you need the help. If you're
The
going to abuse your
most. That's when you
body.
need
Yeah.
them the most,
Yeah.
right?
And so I tell them, look, start with the Healthy Trinity a couple of days before your feast day. If you're not already on it, take it twice a day. Before you eat, take either the Digestalac in the dairy free or dairy, like a teaspoon before you eat. If you're still feeling heavy after you eat, take another teaspoon. Please remember to chew your food at least 10 times. Put your cell phone away. Enjoy conversation with somebody. Focus on the taste of the food. Don't just wolf it down and keep filling up your plate and just stuffing your mouth and your stomach full of food that it can't actually deal with. And if you overindulge in alcohol, then I would take 2 Healthy Trinities at night with extra of our bifidobacter powder, because it's the alcohol damages the liver, and the liver needs help in getting rid of the toxin, which alcohol is a toxin that it's extremely difficult with your liver to deal with and get out of the body. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that that alcohol toxin makes it out of your body via your feces and doesn't overload your liver with trying to detoxify a substance which is very poorly detoxified by the liver.
Yes, those are such good tips. Like I can't express enough too. I always talk to people about chewing their food because honestly, guys, it's just a
Mhm.
cool experiment for you to do. Try to see try not to like change it and see how much you normally chew your food. I've had clients most of the time tell me between 3 and 5 bites, like 3 and 5 times they chew and then swallow.
Yep. And that's
And
why they're
so
so hungry.
right. And so it's like you guys have to realize that it takes at least 20 minutes for your gut brain axis to register the leptin that's, oh, hey, I'm satiated. I got enough food. And we're scarfing down our food in like 5 minutes sometimes.
Yeah.
And like she said, we're distracted eating. We're eating in front of televisions, in front of screens while we're driving our car. you shouldn't eat like that, guys. We weren't designed to eat and to be doing things at the same time. There's a reason that the system is called rest and digest. We sit and we eat and we enjoy each other's
Yeah.
company. We don't scarf it down and then say, "Oh, I'm hungry." 5 minutes later, your body doesn't even recognize you just got a full meal. So
Yeah.
it's like
And
little things like that. And fiber, obviously, we're gut health people, but it's like if you're eating these meals devoid of fiber, you shouldn't be super surprised that you're not as satiated,
well,
as you
not only
should be.
that, you're not eliminating, you're going to have problems because the body's saying, oh my God, look at all this junk I just got thrown into, try to break down. And don't forget that undigested food rots down the 27 feet of your GI tract. I want people to keep this visual. That
Yeah.
food
Yeah. Think
rots
about that,
down.
guys. Food just rotting and fermenting and off gassing and
Yeah.
attracting different bacteria and fungal
Oh,
overgrowths.
not only that, you're not going to get your serotonin production, which is about 90% of it is produced in the gut and then sent via the vagus nerve to the first brain. You're not going to get your dopamine. You're not going to get the precursor to GABA and tryptophan production. All of these good feel good chemicals. That's why you feel depressed after
Yes.
you've overeaten because the right chemicals are not being produced because your body's now overwhelmed and it's got
Right.
to deal with detoxing itself and it can't do anything else.
And guys, keep that in mind. Like, even if you think like this is a really good point, because we all should be very focused on our mental health, right? The point
Yeah.
of a human life is to have a high quality of existence. And to be honest, when you're consuming these large amounts of sugar, like we definitely see around Christmas, right? It's like there's
Mhm.
candy everywhere. There's chocolate calendars and chocolate Santas, and it's kind of just become a very cultural thing. It's like, yeah, you might have a momentary bliss of like, oh, I just ate this candy, but how are you going to feel the whole rest of the day? Like she says, when your serotonin is compromised, when your dopamine is
Mhm.
compromised, you won't be able to feel a good quality of life. And then you say, oh, I have seasonal depression and winter just makes me sad. It's like, no, you're just feeding your body a lot of crap.
Not only that, but we see aggressive behavior. There's been documented cases and multiple clinical research that people can become violent if they disturb the chemical production in their gut. And it's not a new thing. So, yes, that's why some people become depressed, others become aggressive. So,
Yes.
I cannot stress strongly enough how you need to protect your system. You need to take the right probiotics. And it's not about making a sale, guys. Honestly, I should be gone 10 years ago. Shouldn't be doing this anymore. But I see the need. I see the rise in autism. I see the rise in autoimmune disease. I see the rise in colon cancer. I see the rise in terrific illness, infertility in young people, you name it. It's all related. It's not a separate condition. It's all related. We have to start thinking of the body as a holistic system that we are trashing with our thoughts, our food, and our behavior. And we've got to incorporate all of that holistically if we're going to see a change in the health process of our country.
Yes, so well said. And like she said, don't have that mindset of, oh, I'm just going to trash my body, so I'm not going to take, Holy Trinity. It's like that would be probably the best thing you could do. If you're going to overindulge, it's like you want at least little warriors inside that are going to fight for you,
Yeah.
as you're doing that. So don't have that mindset of like, I'm just going to bullshit my diet the whole month of December and I'll start in January.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a proper mindset to have. It's pretty like
No,
irrational.
no. And what I'm saying that when it took me a decade to develop the healthy trinity, and I don't use more of bacteria because I've done my research. I could definitely add more bacteria, but there's no reason because they compete. I just want to say, if you don't remember what I told you, it's on my website, natren.com. We have live people that I still pay to be there. If you don't understand something, you can call and talk to a live person. The number is on the website. Why am I doing this? Because I am concerned. I don't need to be here. I could have been gone. We are not getting the right information, especially to young people. I see young women coming to me. They say, how come my skin in my mid 70s is better than theirs in the mid 20s? And I said, because your skin reflects on what's going on in the inside. Your skin will tell you what's going on that's not good. It doesn't lie. So if your skin is not beautiful, if you're not able to be happy, if you're not able to have good thoughts, if you don't have the energy and you're feeling lousy, then you need to change. And you need to not listen to the last person who has some kind of a sexy tip or whatever. You need to really start listening to people who have been in this industry, who understand your gut, who understand your body, and who really want to get you better. And I think a lot of young people, even middle-aged people and older people, have to make that decision, because Natasha's other cliche is people find money for what they want.
Yes.
Starbucks wouldn't be doing so great if people didn't find money for their Starbucks fix. So, yeah, we will find money for what we want. But the other extreme is that people will go to an operation because insurance is paying for it, but will not spend a dime to see if they can, help their body get better on its own. I'm not saying anything against operations when they're necessary. I'm just making an absurd observation that people will do something that's very stressful for their body because insurance is paying for it. But they don't want to spend any money taking care of the only thing they have that needs to lead them to a happier and better life.
So well said. So well said too, because it really, just like she says, ignorance is not bliss, right? And if we really just if we are able to understand that we have more direction and charge over our health
Mhm.
than any doctor out there or any influencer out there, like really, I think that's the biggest message we could leave with you guys is you are in charge of this body that you have, and
Yep.
you can impact it. And don't get beaten into thinking, oh, I'm not a doctor, I don't understand my body. We're teaching you how your body works. You should know it's your body.
Yeah.
And start taking pride in it and understanding that you can do simple things like adding the right probiotics, the right bacteria that are going to work for you to restructure the inside so that, like she
Yep.
said, the outside reflects it.
Exactly. And I'm not telling you that you should ignore your doctor, but remember, it's called the practice of medicine. It's not the absolute knowledge of medicine. It's called the practice of medicine. And you should be knowing as much as your doctor is and having him as a real, her or him as a real player in helping your body stay healthy. And only take drugs when you absolutely need them because you've tried everything else and now you have to resort to that. That should be your last choice, not your first choice.
Yes, so well said.
So, on that, we have so many more things to explore. I hope you guys take these tips. Remember that you need products like the Healthy Trinity, because I've spent so much time researching this. And by the way, I don't sell anything else except probiotics because it is such a specialty item that you have to concentrate everything you have on maintaining those healthy products and making sure that each time and a person buys it, they get exactly what they look for. Another problem, which I think we should tackle next time, Jennilyn, is the number of products that one company makes. And since I've been on industry standards committees and been involved with industry organizations for well over 50 years, I can tell you that any company that makes 50 or more supplements does not have even a technical manager who's overseeing these products. And you should be questioning who is actually the formulator of this product, because a lot of these things that we take cannot even be absorbed by our body. So we're just enhancing our toilet. We're not really enhancing our body because the substance will not be absorbed and will not be properly broken down. So we have to go back to the basics, what this industry taught 50 years ago. I think it's time we did that.
Yes, I could not agree with you more. And thank you so much for having me on and for just your mission. I can tell that your passion and your heart is in the right place. Just like me, I see it. I'm concerned about the chronic disease rise, and
Mhm.
we're doing this because we truly want to change the way we practice medicine, and we want you guys to understand your own body and be able to do something about it and be kind of the director and the captain of your body rather
Yep.
than being a passenger along for the ride,
Or the
right?
victim. Or the
Or
victim.
the
We don't want
victim.
you, we
Exactly.
don't want the victim mentality. You are in charge of your body. Your
Yes.
thoughts and your choices make you in charge of your body. And I think we're aligned in that, Jenny Lynn, that we both want to make people healthy, and we want to teach them how to be in charge of their own body.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, on that, I hope everyone has a happy and healthy holiday, and that the Jennilyn and my, intervention in your holiday thoughts or choices will help you survive the holidays. And I'd love to hear from all of you. And I think to see how you incorporated this into your holiday thinking and how you've benefited from it. Because when we talk to each other, we learn.
Yes. Thank you,
All right.
Natasha.
Thank you. Have a wonderful holiday.